You have to understand this. Boxing's like this game of life. I got beaten by Buster, right?
Is this the end of influencer boxing? Does Jake continue? You know, he's got I guess, looks like a particularly bad injury. Both sides of his jaw broken.
That's why when he fought Anthony Joshua, I scoffed at it. I talked a little bit of because of the lunacy. And I said, someone's going to end up dead. Someone can die.
So here's something that really makes you stop and think. Every single year, 13 professional boxers lose their lives due to injuries suffered inside the ring. That number alone is enough to put things into perspective. After watching Jake Paul get knocked out by Anthony Joshua, Mike Tyson had a very strong and serious reaction. This wasn't hype or drama. Tyson issued a direct, no-nonsense warning. He publicly urged Jake to walk away from boxing immediately, making it clear that continuing down this road is putting his life at real risk. Tyson explained that stepping into the ring with elite-level fighters is not something to take lightly. From his experience, boxing is one of the most unforgiving sports in the world. There is absolutely no margin for error when you are facing opponents who have spent their entire lives mastering the craft. Tyson believes that if Jake continues chasing these high-risk matchups, it's only a matter of time before something truly devastating happens. His message wasn't meant to insult or belittle Jake. It came from a place of understanding the brutal reality of boxing, especially when mismatches happen at the highest level.
You have this issue now where he's got to recover, and honestly, coming from broken jaw, two sides of broken jaw is even worse because you got to test it out. It's, you're not just chewing food or talking. Your jaw has to heal enough to take impact, to spar, to be able to actually box and not just everyday life's usage of your jaw. Like I said, to just chew and talk. So I don't know. That's why I was thinking, like, is this going to be the end of Jake, or because even if he comes back as a boxer, it'll probably could take a year, to be honest. Does he focus on his promotional company? I was thinking, the promotional company is probably one thing that I could always ride with. I never had criticism for it. Jake's promotional company, MVP, I think he's doing a lot of good things with his fighters, taking care of them, which is personally what I like. If fighters earn their money and they should be compensated for it the right way, and a lot of promoters don't do that. But Jake has signed a lot of good fighters and compensates them very well, giving them opportunities and so on. So especially the women, but not just the women. A buddy of mine, Lucas Body's also signed with MVP. He's done well over there. So, he's I do like the promotional company. Will this maybe give Jake a chance to sort of double down on the promotional company, being that he's not going to be fighting, and put even more effort into the promotional company, and I don't know, just make this MVP platform an even bigger deal. I don't know.
Following his knockout loss, reports indicate that Jake Paul suffered a serious jaw injury, and what's been circulating online is difficult to watch. Several videos show him struggling just to open his mouth, and it's obvious that this goes far beyond simple discomfort. The pain is real and visible. In one video Jake shared himself, you can clearly see that even speaking causes him pain. Every word looks like an effort, which really drives home how severe this injury actually is. Fans and boxing analysts have been weighing in, pointing out that this injury highlights the enormous risk Jake took by stepping into the ring with an elite heavyweight like Anthony Joshua. This isn't about pride or a bruised face. This is the kind of injury that forces you to rethink everything about your involvement in the sport. It also reinforces the warnings from people like Mike Tyson, who've been saying that continuing to fight at this level could result in even more serious and possibly permanent damage.
Is not a game. Fighting is not something you pick up and mess around with, right? If you're a fighter, if you're a boxer, if you're a mixed martial artist, right, you have to take this seriously and you have to respect the game. That's why when he fought Anthony Joshua, I scoffed at it. I talked a little bit of because of the lunacy. And I said, someone's going to end up dead. Someone can die. 10 to 13 boxers die per year. It is not a game. Now, of course, the man wants to make money and he wants to box people and he wants to entertain his fans and thrill audiences. And that's great. And God bless him. Fair play to him. The man is very, very successful. I've never talked about that. I've only talked about 58-year-old Mike Tyson, or fighting retired, semi-retired UFC legends and then talking about them, right? All I've ever said is box someone your own age and size. And then this thing with Anthony Joshua, I was like, this is crazy. Now let's talk about the actual fight for a second. It happened in the 6th round, and it happened in a 22-foot ring. A typical ring is 20 foot. This one was 22 foot because he wanted a bigger room to operate, a bigger space, a bigger ring, somewhere to run away and be on his bike and stay away from Anthony Joshua. Now, I don't blame the guy. I'd have done the same thing, right? Because Anthony Joshua is gigantic and has the kind of power that could potentially do that to you, right? Maybe it's real, maybe it's AI, right? Either way, his face is going to be swollen today. That's a fact, right? The bigger ring gives you more space. Jake Paul did about 5 miles of road work, shot about 25 double leg takedowns because he didn't want to stand there and go toe to toe with him like Francis Ngannou did, because he knows what would have happened, okay? And ultimately, it ended up happening anyway in the 6th round. And yeah, okay, he's going to have the street cred of standing there and say, I went 6 rounds with
Paulie Malignaggi, who knows firsthand what it takes to recover from serious boxing injuries, offered a detailed breakdown of Jake Paul's situation, and his perspective is eye-opening. He explains that the recovery process for this type of injury is extremely serious and should not be underestimated. A broken jaw on both sides, which is what's reportedly happened here, is far more severe than many people realize. This isn't comparable to breaking an arm and finding ways to work around it. The jaw has to heal completely before it can handle the force of punches, intense training sessions, and full contact competition again. Paulie suggests that Jake could realistically be out for a full year, possibly even longer, depending on how the healing goes. That timeline naturally raises questions about whether Jake will continue pursuing boxing as a fighter or shift more of his focus toward his promotional company. On that note, Paulie had positive things to say about Jake's MVP promotional company. He praised it for treating fighters fairly and paying them properly, which is refreshing in a sport often criticized for questionable promoter behavior. According to Paulie, Jake has signed legitimately talented fighters and is running the promotion in a professional and responsible way. While Jake recovers, this promotional work could easily become his main focus, and that might end up being the smartest decision for everyone involved.
Couldn't have done any more. When you get in the ring with somebody that is constantly trying to just survive and run, you can't do anything about it. Our sport is built up of journeymen, like what Jake Paul did. He's trying to survive, he's not trying to engage. And so therefore, it's your job to cut him down and catch up to him. I think Anthony Joshua it was basically open to a lot of criticism because this guy didn't come to engage. If he came to engage, then it would have been a completely different story. And I understand the frustration of the general public when they're saying they should knock him out in 1 to 2 rounds. I get that, because Jake Paul is being brilliant at annoying and getting under the skin of everybody, which you really, in our sport, if you can evoke emotion from the fans, you're doing a great job. So what Jake Paul did was got in the ring. I think he realised the task in hand when he stood there in that 22-foot ring. He sees an Adonis of a fighter, former world champion, Anthony Joshua in another corner, and that's when reality hit fiction. Everything he had in his head, everything he thought that he could possibly do, had disappeared, slipped out the ring with the cornermen, slipped out the ring, and he thought, wow, this is for real. And even a little jab that just gently missed him, you could see him thinking, what is this about? So it was a case of survival. And to me, I didn't want Anthony Joshua to knock him out, if I'm honest with you. I thought, you've got to make this kid have a reality check. And that's what he actually did, because Jake Paul himself said, I was shattered. You know, this guy, everything I thought I could do, I couldn't do. Boxing looks so easy on the TV. Boxing looks so, matter of fact, no big deal, until you get punched and then reality kicks in. And Jake Paul, he has done a brilliant job of promoting himself, promoting this fight, promoting the evoking human emotion. And I think he'd be a great promoter down the line, because, on the undercard, you had Caroline de Barbox on the undercard, you had all these amazing fights on the undercard.
Michael Bisping, who has endured his own share of brutal injuries in combat sports, brought attention to something that often gets lost amid the excitement and entertainment. The dangers of combat sports are real and cannot be ignored. He made it very clear that boxing is not a game and not a performance. It carries life-threatening risks. Bisping highlighted a shocking statistic, noting that between 10 to 13 professional boxers die each year from injuries sustained in the ring. Hearing that number puts everything into perspective. These aren't theoretical risks or rare accidents. These are real deaths that occur with unsettling frequency. Bisping also criticized Jake Paul for moving far outside his natural weight class, mainly for financial gain. While those kinds of matchups attract attention and generate headlines, they also create dangerous situations that no amount of money can justify. He stressed that boxing demands professionalism, years of training, proper preparation for each opponent, and deep respect for the sport. Ignoring these fundamentals can lead to life-altering consequences that social media fame or pay-per-view success can never undo.
But Jake Paul made a lot of money. Who cares? Money is a tool. Money is good. If you can get it, get it. Hustle. But here's the thing. If someone offered you $100 million, but then if you took the $100 million, you have to pass away, they're going to take your life in 2 weeks. I mean, would you take that? So you get a lot of money and then you only have 2 weeks with the money. Like that, to me, that's stupid. So money is cool, but there's billionaires and millionaires that have lost their life. I'm sure they had terminal illnesses or whatnot. I'm sure they would give up a lot of their wealth or large portions of their wealth for their health. That's why people say health is wealth. So I'm not impressed by money. And it's so funny that you have these MAGA influencers that just lost back-to-back, Jake Paul and Andrew Tate, and their fan bases who pitch this far right and pitch this like red pill philosophies, alpha male philosophies, and like having affirmations and daily tenets and goal setting and being a real man and the difference between man and woman, all these things that these base.
Johnny Nelson added another important perspective to the conversation. He acknowledged that Jake Paul has proven himself to be an exceptional promoter who understands how to generate attention and work the system. Nelson praised Jake's ability to draw massive audiences and create headlines in ways that even experienced fighters struggle to achieve. From a business standpoint, it's genuinely impressive. However, Nelson was quick to point out the cost of that success. He emphasized that risking your life purely for entertainment should never be celebrated, regardless of how much money it brings in. He described Jake's loss to Anthony Joshua as a major wake-up call, not just for Jake, but for influencers and aspiring fighters watching from the outside. Nelson's message was clear. Being able to promote yourself and create buzz does not make up for the dangers of facing professional-level fighters without the necessary experience and preparation. Both Nelson and Bisping agree on this key point. Jake's marketing skills are undeniable, but the physical risks he took were extremely serious and should not be brushed aside simply because the event was profitable.
But it kind of disappointed me. Whereas I didn't expect Jake Paul to go in there and just recklessly go forward and try to mix it up with Anthony Joshua. That would be like immediate suicide. That would be like running into a jet plane propeller on purpose. But there's a fine line between being defensive minded and using your ability to move and your speed and things like that, than like literally fleeing and just running around the ring like you're in a cartoon. And that's what he basically resorted to for the first 4 rounds. I mean, I guess it was effective because he stayed upright, other than when he was flopping down on the canvas. But no, nothing really surprised me. Jake got the knockout that everybody expected, and it was a pretty impressive knockout when he finally got it. It just took him longer than it probably should have to get there.
Why do you think it took him so long? It seemed at times that he wasn't throwing his right hand as much. Was it just the fact, like you said, Jake was on the back foot, it was difficult to pin him down, or do you think Joshua should have and could have finished this way earlier?
I mean, he probably could have finished it a little bit earlier. I mean, I'm willing to cut him a little bit of slack because we look at it from the standpoint of, okay, he's a physically much more imposing figure, a much better fighter, a much heavier puncher, a much more experienced fighter. This is an Olympic gold medal winner. is a 2-time unified heavyweight champion going up against what is basically still a novice professional in Jake Paul, who, by the way, is fighting generally in the 200-pound weight class, and Anthony Joshua was a chiseled 250 in most of his fights or thereabouts. So from that standpoint, he had all the physical advantages as well as all the experience and skills advantages. So why couldn't he do it earlier? Because it's hard to catch up with a guy when he's just going to run around. And
analysts across the boxing world have been stressing that Jake Paul's broken jaw is far more than a small setback. This is a serious injury that could potentially change the entire direction of his boxing career. The damage, reportedly involving breaks on both sides of the jaw, requires careful and extended healing before he can safely return to training or competition. Experts explain that this kind of injury affects more than just daily activities like talking or eating, though those are impacted as well. The real concern is whether his jaw will ever again be able to handle the repeated impacts that are unavoidable in boxing. Proper recovery could take many months, and that means fully healing, not just feeling good enough to get back in the ring. Rushing the process due to money, pride, or impatience could result in permanent damage that affects him for the rest of his life. Analysts are also warning that continuing to take high-risk fights against elite opponents, especially in weight classes that don't suit him naturally, could have serious long-term effects on both his career and his overall health.
You know, on the flip side to it, everyone's laughing at Jake Paul when Jake Paul's laughing at everybody else. You know, everyone's making fun of him. He's laughing at us, not we're laughing at him. You know, he's laughed himself to the bank. Even before that fight, you know, he's an unbelievable businessman, which is exactly what he is. To do what he's done, to drag Mike Tyson into the ring, to drag Anthony Joshua into the ring, get Netflix, to do what he's done with women's boxing. Laugh at him all you want, mate. He's absolutely, you know, I say I'm going to use the word the businessman. He's unbelievable at what he's doing. As a fighter, as a boxer, as a professional boxer, he's poor. And I mean this with the greatest respect. Like, you know, he's come off the couch watching YouTube, doing YouTube and influencing people to get Anthony Joshua in the ring. Should Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua ever be in the ring together? No, should they fuck. But the business side to it, they fucking walked away with millions. The fight was poor. Jake was just in there to survive. Yeah, there's just loads. We can keep going on and on about it. Was it a success? Probably. They both walked away with millions. But for Jake to get Joshua in the ring there, you can say all you want, but I think personally, if that fight fell on Tyson Fury's lap first, he would have took it. You know, which heavyweight's going to say, yeah, it is. Just let's say, an example, 50 million to fight Jake Paul. You know, they're going to say no. I don't think one heavyweight in world boxing would have said no, barring Alexander Yusuf.
No, definitely as well. Final one on this as well. Do you side with the fact that kind of the first meaningful shot that Joshua threw?
Dan Rafael offered a vivid and blunt assessment of Jake Paul's strategy in the early rounds of the fight. His commentary was both amusing and deeply concerning. Rafael said Jake's approach looked dangerously extreme, comparing it to running straight into a jet plane propeller, which perfectly captures how reckless it appeared to experienced boxing observers. He explained that there's a major difference between smart defensive movement and simply running in panic. According to Rafael, for the first 4 rounds, Jake wasn't using strategy so much as trying to escape. While this approach helped him avoid an even earlier knockout, it came across as almost cartoonish, like watching someone just trying to survive instead of actually competing. Rafael noted that the knockout was expected by anyone with boxing knowledge, and when it finally happened, it was executed cleanly and effectively. He also pointed out that it took longer than it probably should have, largely because Jake spent so much energy avoiding engagement rather than truly boxing.
No more than I would have given him respect before for the other things that he's done, for the just that he would have from me for being just a normal human being. Because as I said in other videos about the fight between Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua, I don't think that Jake Paul came in there as a boxer. I think Jake Paul came in there as a stuntman, and he was impersonating a boxer. He ran around the ring away from Anthony Joshua. Anytime Anthony Joshua tried in the beginning rounds, started engaging a little bit, Jake Paul ran up to him, jumped down on his knees, grabbed down on his leg. Might have been, I don't know, 10, 11 times in the course of the 6 rounds that he won.
Boxing is not a game and not just an entertainment platform. It is a dangerous combat sport with real consequences. At the elite level, mismatches can cause lasting damage that stays with fighters long after the cameras are gone. While Jake Paul has clearly established himself as a powerful and successful promoter in modern fight marketing, his loss to Anthony Joshua served as a harsh reminder of a simple truth. Success outside the ring, whether it's social media followers, business deals, or promotional skill, offers no protection once the fight begins against world-class competition. Whether this bout marks the end of Jake's career as a fighter or simply a forced pause due to the seriousness of his injury, the message from across the boxing world is clear and consistent. Legends, analysts, and fellow fighters are all saying the same thing. Continuing to face elite opponents while competing outside your natural weight class carries risks that money, attention, confidence, and promotional success simply cannot cancel out or protect you from.